Sword Art Online is just a total disaster from start to finish. It's boring, predictable, and honestly feels like a waste of time. The writing is lazy, with too many plot holes and contrived twists that don't make sense. The characters, they're forgettable, flat, and have zero depth. It's like the writers didn't even try to make them interesting. Instead, they just throw in a bunch of cliches and hope something sticks. The pacing is a nightmare. It's either dragging on for way too long or rushing through important moments with time skips that make everything feel disconnected. You're left feeling like the show is just trying to fill space with irrelevant side stories that don't contribute to anything important. Nothing really happens that makes you feel like the journey is worth it, and the world building is a joke. It's like they created a setting without putting any thought into how it actually works. Everything feels shallow and poorly explained, making the whole premise hard to believe. You never get a sense of immersion, and the rules of this world feel more like an afterthought than a critical part of the story. The romance is painfully awkward and forced. It's shoved down your throat with zero chemistry, and it feels more like a checklist than an actual relationship between characters. It just doesn't work, and at times, it feels uncomfortable rather than heartwarming. If you're into shows with strong, well-rounded characters, this one's not for you. Female characters, in particular, are often reduced to background figures or plot devices, which is frustrating to watch. It's clear that the writers weren't interested in giving them any real depth, and instead, they get stuck playing second fiddle to the main character. The show relies too much on cheap fan service, flashy action scenes, and predictable drama to cover up the fact that it doesn't have much substance. It's trying to look cool but doesn't really have anything new or interesting to say. And let's not even get started on the fan base. If you criticize the show at all, be prepared for a storm of angry fans who'll attack anyone who doesn't worship it. There's a certain level of toxicity that makes it difficult to have an honest conversation about the show without being bombarded with personal attacks. It's exhausting and makes engaging with the community downright unpleasant. All in all, Sword Art Online is the kind of show that falls apart when you start watching. It's full of empty promises, shallow characters, and a lack of real substance. If you value your time and sanity, there are far better shows out there to spend your energy on. Avoid this one if you know what's good for you. The Monster Hunter movie absolutely blows Sword Art Online out of the water for so many reasons. First off, it knows exactly what it is, a high-octane action film. It doesn't waste time trying to be something it's not, like Sword Art Online does with its convoluted plot twists and dragged-out drama. From the very beginning, it focuses on delivering an adrenaline-pumping experience that keeps you engaged without overcomplicating things. The pacing in Monster Hunter is a huge improvement too. The story moves at a perfect rhythm, never dragging on or feeling rushed. Every scene has a purpose, whether it's pushing the action forward or developing the characters in a natural way. There's no filler here, just pure entertainment from start to finish. The world building is another area where Monster Hunter excels. The movie takes you into its world and makes you feel like you're part of it. There's a clear understanding of how the setting works, and the stakes are always high because you can actually believe in the danger that the characters face. The monsters are massive, powerful, and terrifying, which makes the battles feel real and intense. In comparison, Sword Art Online spends way too much time trying to explain things that don't matter and neglecting the actual story and character development. The characters themselves are a breath of fresh air. In Monster Hunter, you can feel the connection between the characters and their struggles, and their motivations make sense within the world they inhabit. They're not just placeholders in a plot, they have substance. In Sword Art Online, it's easy to feel like the characters are just going through the motions with no real emotional investment. And let's not forget the tone. Monster Hunter stays true to its roots by offering a consistent and immersive experience that keeps you hooked from beginning to end. It doesn't get bogged down with trying to be overly dramatic or overly complicated. It's about the action, the adventure, and the sheer fun of it all. Meanwhile, Sword Art Online often gets stuck in its own mess of themes, leaving you frustrated and disconnected from what's supposed to be an exciting narrative. In short, Monster Hunter is everything that Sword Art Online could have been. It's straightforward, thrilling, and knows how to deliver a great story while keeping things fun and exciting. There's no unnecessary fluff or filler, just pure entertainment from start to finish. If you're looking for a movie that actually respects your time and delivers on its promises, Monster Hunter is the way to go.
You and your team are magically transported to another world where dangerous and powerful monsters exist. What do you do? How can you survive and defeat the monsters? In this video, I'll break down the Monster Hunter movie, explain all the mistakes made, see if I can make better decisions than the characters, and ultimately try to beat every monster. Let's get started. The movie begins in the New World, a place where humans coexist with deadly monsters. A team of hunters are traveling across the desert, but their ship gets attacked by Diablos. One of the hunters gets separated from the group. This character doesn't actually have a name. He's only credited as Hunter, so for this video, I'll just call him Tony, since actor Tony Jaa is playing him. We move to our world. United States Army Captain Natalie Artemis and her UN security team are searching for some missing soldiers in the desert. A storm suddenly starts, and the characters try to drive away. However, the storm catches up to them and pulls the characters into a portal where they're all transported to the new world. Honestly, not much could have been done here. The characters attempted to drive away, but the storm was too fast so they couldn't avoid it. This is an unknown location, so you definitely want to always have your guard up. The characters are all carrying guns, so that's good because they have something to protect themselves with, although the guns won't really do much against the monsters. But it's better than nothing, I guess. We learn that the GPS and compass don't work anymore because of the storm, so the group gets moving. Most of the time it's actually better to stay put if you're lost, but this isn't our world, and it would also be a pretty boring movie if the characters just sat around and didn't do anything. So they travel and come across some huge bones. Tony sees the characters from afar, and he fires a warning shot at them. The characters get back into their vehicles as a Diablos attacks them. The Diablos is impervious to bullets, so the characters should stop wasting their ammunition and try to get away as fast as possible. If you already shot at the Diablo several times and nothing happened, then shooting it some more isn't going to do anything either. We also see that the grenades don't do any damage to the Diablos, but the Diablos' eyes, mouth, and nostrils should be vulnerable since it doesn't have any skin or scales protecting those areas of its body. So if you can drop a grenade into the Diablos' mouth, it should do some significant damage to it. If you're fighting a Diablos in the Monster Hunter video game, an effective strategy is to kite it around the area and tire it out. The Diablos are most powerful at the start of the fight, so it'll be much slower and less aggressive when it's exhausted. Maybe a similar strategy would have worked in this movie. If the characters kite the Diablos and wear it out, it won't be as big of a threat anymore. Moreover, in the Monster Hunter video game, the Diablos are weak to ice, but the characters don't have any immediate access to any ice right now in the middle of the desert, so unfortunately they can't do anything about that. The Diablos kills a few of the characters and runs off, while the rest of the characters hide inside a cave. But during the night, they're attacked by a pack of Nersilla, which are giant spider-like monsters. One of the Nersilla impales Artemis, and the other characters think she died, so they leave her behind and run away. However, they all get killed by the Nersilla. I don't think there was much the characters could have done to avoid getting killed here, unfortunately. Later in the movie, we see that the Nersilla are weak to sunlight, so if the characters were able to hide and wait until sunrise, then they should be able to make it out alive. But there were way too many Nersilla, and the characters weren't able to find a safe hiding place. Artemis wasn't dead, so she wakes up and manages to escape. Artemis lights a flare and uses a canister of oxygen to create a makeshift flamethrower. This is pretty smart. In the Monster Hunter video game, the Nersilla are weak to fire and thunder, so this is an effective way to fight the Nersilla. The Nersilla can't chase Artemis in the sun, so she stops and uses some gunpowder to cauterize the wound on her foot. But why doesn't Artemis also do that for the huge wound on her stomach? We can see that it's still bleeding, so Artemis should have done something about it. Artemis eventually runs into Tony, and the two of them fight, but after a while, they ultimately decide to set their differences aside and work together. This is a good choice. Artemis is unfamiliar with this world, so cooperating with Tony is the best option. Tony will be able to teach Artemis a lot of new things about the world. Tony explains that the portals are created by the Sky Tower, which is located across the desert. In order to reach the tower, Tony and Artemis will have to kill the Diablos. But can't they just take a detour? Why do they have to go down that particular path? The desert is huge, so I'm sure there are several other routes you can take to cross it. Or if you wait a couple of days, the Diablos might get bored and leave on its own to go find prey somewhere else. Tony plans on using the Nersilla's poison to kill the Diablos, and Artemis is used as bait to lure out a Nersilla. This is very risky. Artemis could have easily gotten killed if the Nersilla didn't miss so many times. Then Artemis would be dead by now. I don't think this was necessary. As mentioned before, the Diablos is weak to ice. The characters didn't have any time to prepare beforehand, but now they have some time to get ready for the fight. Believe it or not, you can actually create ice in the desert if you know what you're doing, and people have done so for thousands of years. In the early evening, you would pour water into long and shallow stone pools, then go back to the pools just before dawn the following morning, and the water will be frozen. You can take the ice and store it inside a yakchow. These are hollow, insulate domes that can store ice for months. Tony kills the Nersilla and slices off its stinger. Artemis takes the stinger, and the characters head back to their base of operations. Tony extracts the poison and attaches it to his arrow. Tony also teaches Artemis how to use his weapons, and there's a mini training montage. Afterwards, Tony and Artemis fight the Diablos, and Tony shoots the poison arrow right into the Diablos' eye. As stated before, the eyes, mouth, and nostrils are weak points, so aiming for the Diablos' eye is a great choice. If the characters had ice, Tony could have attached some ice to his arrows, and that would probably be effective against the Diablos as well. Of course, this is all assuming that the movie Diablos works the exact same as the video game Diablos. Artemis also makes it back to her vehicle and fires a machine gun and then a missile launcher at the Diablos. Diablos. But we've already seen that it's impervious to bullets and grenades, so this is pretty useless, unless you're going to aim for the eyes, mouth, or nostrils. Artemis uses her grappling hook and kills the Diablos by stabbing in the head with Tony's sword. In the Monster Hunter video game, the Diablos' head, wings, and chest are weak spots, so it seems like the movie Diablos is indeed just like the video game Diablos. Tony is badly wounded after getting tossed away by the Diablos, but he's still alive. Artemis builds a makeshift stretcher and drags Tony across the desert. Artemis revives Tony, and the two reach an oasis populated by Apsaros. The Apsaros are herbivores, so they won't eat you. This doesn't mean they aren't dangerous though, so you certainly don't want to provoke them and have a herd of Apsaros attack you. During the night, a Rathalos flies by and causes an Apsaros stampede. Luckily, Tony and Artemis are rescued by the group of hunters that we saw at the beginning of the movie. The hunters are led by the Admiral. He knocks Artemis unconscious, and she gets locked up in a prison cell. Artemis uses a table, breaks the lock, and escapes. She's lucky that the lock was so easily broken. If she couldn't break the lock, maybe trying to reason with the Admiral would have worked. Artemis could explain that she's trying to help, and he might listen to her and let her go, especially if Tony is also on her side. Artemis talks with the Admiral, who speaks English, and he explains that many others have crossed over to this world a long time ago. The Sky Tower is the remnant of an ancient civilization, and that's what brought Artemis here. The ancient civilization destroyed themselves after the technology turned on them. The hunters were on their way to the Sky Tower, and that's where they were attacked by the Diablos. A Rathalos guards the Sky Tower. They're almost impossible to kill. Their only weakness is just before they breathe fire. If Artemis helps the hunters fight the Rathalos, then they'll help her return home. This seems like a good deal. It's not like Artemis has much of a choice. She can't really make it back home on her own. The next morning, Artemis and the hunters travel to the Sky Tower, and they make it there by nightfall. The lava powers the machinery within the Sky Tower. The characters fight the Rathalos, but there are several times where the Rathalos is about to breathe fire, and the characters don't do anything. So why don't the characters seize the moment and attack right before the Rathalos breathes fire? I get that the filmmakers wanted this fight scene to go on a bit longer, but it doesn't make much sense in context. Furthermore, some of the characters are using fire-type weapons, but I don't think that's going to be very effective against a fire-breathing wyvern. In the Monster Hunter video games, the Rathalos have a huge resistance to fire, and they're weak to ice, water, dragon, and thunder, so the characters should be using those elements against the Rathalos. If there are fire-type weapons in this world, then surely there are weapons of other elements as well. These are all experienced hunters, so they should know better. Additionally, the head, wings, and back of the Rathalos are also weak points in the Monster Hunter video games. It could be the same here, so try attacking there if you're fighting a Rathalos. During the battle, Artemis falls through the portal, and she's sent back to our world. Artemis gets rescued by the military, but the portal didn't close, so the Rathalos also comes through to our world. He destroys the helicopter that Artemis is on, but she somehow manages to survive the crash. The military try to fight the Rathalos, but the guns and tanks don't do much. Once again, there are several times where the Rathalos is about to breathe fire, so attacking then would be good. Unfortunately, the military people don't know that. The Rathalos kills everyone except for Artemis, so she fights it one-on-one. Artemis shoots a flare into the Rathalos' mouth right before it breathes fire, and it seemingly kills the Rathalos. However, it's not actually dead, and it's about to eat Artemis. So was the whole right before it breathes fire thing not true then? But Tony also comes through the portal to our world, and he shoots several arrows at the Rathalos, which finally kills it once and for all. After the battle, Artemis chooses to go back to New World and fight with the hunters to protect our world from other monsters. They have to shut down the Sky Tower for good, or else more monsters will pass through to our world. A Gore Magala flies through the portal, and the movie ends with Artemis, Tony, and the Admiral attacking the Gore Magala. In the Monster Hunter video games, the Gore Magala are weak to fire, thunder, dragon, and ice, so this time using fire-type weapons is smart. In the post-credit scene, Helico comes to help the other characters fight the Gore Magala, and a hooded figure watches the battle from the top of the tower. We don't know who this hooded figure is, and probably won't find out unless there's a sequel, but it's most likely the Seeker, who was part of the first wave of hunters who arrived in Asteria. He could also be someone who's a descendant of the ancient civilization mentioned earlier, and that's how to beat every monster in Monster Hunter. Do you have any better strategies or methods? If so, let me know in the comments below. What did you think of Monster Hunter? I personally thought it was pretty decent. The visual effects were great, and the action scenes were fun to watch. I'd definitely watch a sequel to this film if they made one. Be sure to also check out some of the other how to beat videos on this channel. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Monster Hunter is a 2020 fantasy action movie. It's based on the video game series of the same name by Capcom. In this video, I'll explain the ending of the Monster Hunter film as well as what's next. Let's get started. In the movie's final act, Natalie Artemis meets Ron Perlman's character, the Admiral. He's able to speak English, and we find out that others have crossed over over to this world as well. The Sky Tower, a remnant of an ancient civilization, is what creates the portal that brought Artemis and the others to this world. The ancient civilization destroyed themselves because the technology turned on them. The Admiral suspects that Artemis's world is responsible for their downfall, so that's why he wants to close the portal. However, the Sky Tower is guarded by a Rathalos. It's almost impossible to kill. Their only weakness is just before they breathe fire. The Admiral makes a deal with Artemis. If she helps them defeat the Rathalos, they'll help her return back home. The next morning, the characters travel to the Sky Tower. They arrive at night and fight the Rathalos. During the fight, Artemis is blown through the portal and comes back to Earth. She's rescued by a bunch of military guys and gets on a plane. But the Rathalos has also entered through the portal and destroys the plane. Artemis is able to survive the crash. The other military guys try to fight the Rathalos with their tanks and guns, but they're unsuccessful. Artemis then faces off against the Rathalos alone, and she throws a flare into its mouth. That's not enough to kill the Rathalos though, and now it's about to eat Artemis. But the hunter arrives in the nick of time and attacks the Rathalos. Using his exploding arrows, the hunter is able to finally kill the Rathalos for good. It's then revealed that the Admiral also came through the portal to help defeat the monsters. Then we see that another monster is coming through the portal as well. This time, it's a Gore Magala. The movie ends with Artemis, the hunter, and the Admiral attacking the Gore Magala. So, what's next? Well, this movie ends on a cliffhanger, but writer and director Paul W.S. Anderson already has lots of ideas for a Monster Hunter sequel. There are only 5 or 6 monsters in the Monster Hunter movie. However, there are hundreds of different monsters in the Monster Hunter video games, so they're really only scratching the surface here, and there are many more monsters that could be introduced in the sequel. We saw a Gore Magala at the end. This was introduced in Monster Hunter 4. Here's some info from the Monster Hunter wiki. The pollen-like scales of Gore Magala are used to understand their environment and leave behind a trail that Gore Magala uses to see both predators and prey by heat, and also act as the vector for the pathogen known as the frenzy virus. As Gore Magala's senses increase and become better from these scales, its color under its wings will slowly change and get brighter. When its senses are at their highest peak, 2 feelers will poke out from its head and will release large amounts of scales into the air. The hairs will darken the sky as if an eclipse was in the area, and it will begin to walk on all 6. This state is known as the frenzy state. Furthermore, in an interview with Total Film, Mila Jovovich, the actress who plays Natalie Artemis, explained that Paul W.S. Anderson was already writing something else based in the movie's universe. Here's what she said, quote, "Definitely, we would love to make another one. Hopefully people are going to love it because I know Paul would love to make a sequel. I mean, he's already writing something," end quote. Additionally, in an interview with Polygon, Paul W.S. Anderson was asked if Monster Hunter could be the opening chapter of something bigger, perhaps even a franchise. Here's his response, quote, "Listen, I love Monster Hunter. It was my favorite of any movie in my career to make. Just the experience of kind of going out to these incredible landscapes and building a team spirit with the crew and actors, you know? Us against the environment, in a way. It was something truly special. So, you know, it's definitely a world that I would love to continue exploring, but we always take it one movie at a time, you know? We kind of want to kick ass with this film before considering doing anything else," end quote. Moreover, in an interview with Social Dissonance, Paul W.S. Anderson said that he'd like to visit an icy location in the future.
We were to do another one, maybe I have to punish them with super cold locations.
Afterwards, Paul W.S. Anderson said that he would like to explore the world of the ancient civilization more.
Kind of explore the world of the ancient civilization more.
Will Monster Hunter actually get a sequel? Well, that all depends on how much money the movie makes, and it isn't looking too good at the moment. Monster Hunter was pulled from cinemas in China due to an offensive racist joke. Considering that most of the money was supposed to come from China, this is certainly not good news for the studio. They are going to re-edit the movie and re-release it, but the damage has already been done. China is even blocking Monster Hunter's online presence. Anyways, if you're wondering why the movie begins with the characters in the real world and not in the world of Monster Hunter, Paul W.S. Anderson explained his reasoning for this choice.
It reproduced the feeling that I had as a gamer when I first played the game.
Additionally, Mila Jovovich's character Artemis is in the military. This is because the Monster Hunter movie was actually inspired by a crossover with Metal Gear Solid.
I was very influenced by a crossover that Monster Hunter had done with Metal Gear Solid.
Also, you might be confused why Artemis chooses to use dual fire blades in the movie. Well, it's because Mila Jovovich uses those herself when she plays the Monster Hunter games.
And she just felt the dual blades was something that, you know, she could do maximum damage with while also moving around really quickly.
What did you think of Monster Hunter? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. I personally thought that it was alright. It's not the best video game movie or anything, but it was still very fun and entertaining to sit through, to be honest. I'd definitely watch the sequel if they made one. Be sure to check out some of the other ending explained videos on this channel. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a future upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
As you can see, Monster Hunter is way better than Sword Art Online. Now let's take a look at some other video game movies.
Determining Your Own Destiny, Savage, Accepting Your Fate, awesome. The theme song is pretty good. Vitamin Water, Compliments, Scaring Away the Bad Guys, Diamond Lessons, When Your Dad is Also Invited to the World's Greatest Fighting Tournament, Savage, Working Together, Saving Others in the Nick of Time. Are these Zenyatta's orbs? Cool transition. Impressive. Some pretty cool fighting montages. Impressive. Cool. Lucky shot. Another lucky shot. Cool fight scene here between Kasumi and Ayane. Zack's pants are lit. Nice move. Compliments. Majestic. When your crush finally gets your name right. Coming clean. Awesome fight scene. Saving others in the nick of time. Brutal. Saving others in the nick of time. Savage. Cool fight scene. Impressive. Saving others in the nick of time. Brutal. Awesome. Well, I guess you could say that his plan went up in flames. Liu Kang is really unlucky when your friends help you take on an entire army. Nice Space Invaders stylized opening credits. That's definitely very fitting because Space Invaders is one of the most popular and influential arcade games ever created. The lemonade stand girl here is actually Adam Sandler's daughter, Sadie. That's a nice cameo. Some nice foreshadowing here of what's going to happen later on in the movie. The movie's logo is pretty cool. It's fitting how the logo is also made up of pixels. Again, some nice foreshadowing of what's going to happen later on in the movie. The arcade repairman here is actually Toru Iwatani, the creator of Pac-Man. That's definitely a nice cameo. Nice Star Wars reference. This movie currently takes place in the year 1982, so Star Wars was very popular at the time. Peter Dinklage was a great choice to play Eddie. He definitely does a great job playing that character. Pretty hilarious conversation here between Sam and Will. It's also a nice callback to the earlier scene. The reflection on this guy's helmet is a nice touch. It's a good way to show the audience the presence of the aliens without revealing too much about them. Very heartfelt moment here between Sam and Violet. Michelle Monaghan was a great choice to play Adam Sandler's love interest in this movie. They make a fairly decent on-screen couple. It's cool how the fire here is even pixelated. That's some nice attention to detail. That's pretty awesome. This movie has some great visual effects. Very sincere conversation here between Sam and Violet. They're both in a similar situation because their spouses cheated on them or left them. Nice Blue Lagoon reference. Nice references to Zac Efron, Gandalf, and Harry Potter. Pretty hilarious moment here between Sam and Ludlow. Adam Sandler and Josh Gad make a great comedy duo. The game changer part of that line is very fitting because this whole movie is about video games. This is a pretty awesome flip book. It has some nice illustrations. Again, this movie has some great visual effects. I've gotta give a merit for Ludlow's awesome 8-bit Mario t-shirt here. Nice General Zod reference. Nice Magic Mike reference. Ludlow's speech here is pretty hilarious. Pretty hilarious moment here. It's funny how they pause at a very embarrassing pose. Whoa, that is brutal. The centipede just completely shattered that guy into a bunch of tiny pixels. Sean Bean does a great job in this movie. He's hilarious even though he's trying to be serious. The background music here is a nice touch. It really makes this fight scene a lot more epic. This movie has some very impressive and fun fight scenes. It's cool how Sam and Ludlow can kill the aliens without even looking. Pretty hilarious scene here. Very sincere conversation here between Sam and Violet. It's nice to see them growing closer. Kevin James actually does a great job playing the president in this movie. He's pretty hilarious. Pretty hilarious scene here. Once again, Peter Dinklage does a great job playing Eddie. That is true. According to the US Geological Survey, there are indeed 18,617 named islands that are part of the United States and all its territories. The writers of this movie definitely did their research. It's fitting how the 4 Mini Coopers here are the same colors as the 4 Pac-Man ghosts. Also, it's cool how the license plates are the names of the ghosts. That's some nice attention to detail. As someone who's seen a lot of anime, Ludlow's Japanese is actually pretty good. Pretty hilarious conversation here. Dennis Akiyama does a great job playing Toru Iwatani. Some great visual effects here. The Pac-Man here actually looks very realistic. It's cool how the live map here is displaying everything like an actual game of Pac-Man. The power pellet is actually a real object in the Pac-Man games. That's definitely very fitting. That's pretty awesome. It's cool how Sam planned that out perfectly. It's cool how Maddie is playing The Last of Us here. Very sincere conversation here between Sam and Maddie. This movie does a great job portraying the generation gap between Sam and Maddie. These days, if you die in a game, you can just reset and try again. That wasn't always the case with the older video games. Nice Serena Williams cameo. I've gotta give a merit for Josh Gad's awesome singing skills. Very heartfelt conversation here between Sam and Violet. Adam Sandler definitely has some great on-screen chemistry with Michelle Monaghan. Admiral Porter's reaction here is pretty hilarious. Another heartfelt heartfelt conversation here between Sam and Violet. Ah, that explains how Eddie was able to move so quickly during the Pac-Man fight scene earlier in the movie. Awesome Tetris demolition here. Awesome fight scene here between Ludlow and Lady Lisa. It's fitting how Lady Lisa never talks or makes a sound in this movie. This is most likely because video game characters at her time couldn't talk. It's cool how the final boss is Donkey Kong. At the beginning of the movie, Sam wasn't able to win the Donkey Kong game and he lost to Eddie. Now Sam has another chance to redeem himself. A nice callback to the earlier scene where Sam was watching Maddie play The Last of Us. The We Will Rock You song playing in the background here is a nice touch. It really hypes up this whole fight scene. That's pretty awesome. Once again, this movie has some great visual effects. Nice Martha Stewart cameo. The game over here is a nice touch. This whole movie is about video games, so that's definitely very fitting. Awesome end credits. It definitely fits with the style and theme of this movie, so I'll give a merit for that.
Here's how to beat Gul'dan in Warcraft. The Orc homeworld is crumbling under the influence of fell magic. The Orc warlock Gul'dan opens a portal to Azeroth. King Lane Rin of Stormwind dispatches Anduin Lothar and Mage Khadgar to notify Medivh about the dangerous fell magic spreading across Azeroth. The group organizes a scouting team to track down signs of the fell magic. They're unexpectedly attacked by orcs. Medivh uses a powerful spell to eliminate the fell-corrupted orcs. This forces Blackhand to retreat, along with Duratan and Orgrim. It would have been smarter for the characters to ensure that all the orcs were killed, instead of letting some of them escape. Medivh could have opted for a spell that killed all of the orcs, not just the fell-corrupted ones. Moreover, considering Medivh's ability to cast group teleport spells, he could have whisked the humans away to safety. Khadgar could have also used protective spells to shield the others from harm. When the half-orc Garona is captured, Lane makes a risky decision, promising her freedom in exchange for assistance. However, Garona could be a spy for the orcs, deliberately captured to lure the humans into a trap. Duratan is determined to stop Gul'dan and his destructive magic, which leaves the land barren wherever it touches. Realizing his own limitations, Duratan considers seeking aid from the humans, but it's improbable due to the animosity between the two races. Instead, Duratan should rally support from the other orc allies. Duratan informs Garona of his desire to arrange a meeting with Lane. Anduin suspects it's a trap, but Garona insists it's not. Lane, however, views it as an opportunity too good to pass up. Anduin's cautious approach seems the most sensible. Given the potential danger, avoiding the meeting is the safest course of action. Khadgar uncovers the unsettling truth that the orcs were brought into this world by someone's invitation. It's clear that Medivh is the one responsible. The fact that Medivh burned all of Khadgar's research shows he's hiding something. The humans and orcs gather for their meeting, only to be attacked by Blackhand and his forces. This is why attending the meeting was a reckless decision. If the humans didn't come, they could have avoided falling into the ambush, saving numerous lives in the process. Medivh conjures a protective barrier for the humans, but unfortunately, Anduin's son, Callan, ends up on the outside of the barrier and is killed by Blackhand. This tragic outcome underscores the mistake of allowing Blackhand to flee earlier. Callan should have never been present. Because of his prior injuries from a previous battle, he should have been recovering. While tending to Medivh, Khadgar notices signs of corruption from the fell magic. Despite this discovery, Khadgar chooses to keep it to himself rather than alerting the others. Khadgar transforms a guard into a sheep. It raises the question of why he didn't use this ability when fighting against the orcs. It's much easier to defeat a bunch of sheep than orcs. Duratan proposes a Mak'gora, a traditional orc duel for leadership against Gul'dan. If this option exists, then Duratan doesn't need to seek assistance from the humans. Instead, he should focus on getting stronger to defeat Gul'dan in a Mak'gora, securing control of the orcs without the help of humans. Gul'dan resorts to foul play, using magic to kill Duratan. If Gul'dan is going to cheat, then there's no reason for Duratan to play it fair either. His fellow orcs could have intervened, disrupting the fight and launching a collective attack on Gul'dan instead of passively observing the duel. The humans face off against the orcs head-on, but with their broomsticks, they can attack from afar, killing the orcs without risking their safety. If the humans added bows and arrows to their arsenal, they could broaden their tactical possibilities even more. Khadgar successfully purges the fell magic corrupting Medivh, prompting him to seal the portal and create a new one leading to Stormwind. When Medivh dies, the portal to Stormwind closes, leaving Lane and Garona stranded. Lane instructs Garona to kill him in hopes of her becoming a hero to the orcs and fostering peace between the two races. However, it's doubtful that this would bring about peace. The orcs are more inclined to follow Gul'dan's orders than Garona's. Anduin arrives to retrieve Lane's body. Anduin's griffin dispatches several enemies single-handedly. Why don't all the humans have their own griffins? They seem to be quite powerful. Blackhand challenges Anduin to a mock Gora. Anduin swiftly kills Blackhand and emerges victorious, avenging his son's death. Given Anduin's success against Blackhand, he should challenge Gul'dan to a mock Gora as well. If Anduin could defeat Blackhand with relative ease, facing Gul'dan might not be too difficult either, as long as he doesn't cheat again. At Lane's funeral, Anduin is appointed as the new leader of the Alliance. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.